¿Qué tal, coleccionistas del mundo? Yo soy Tortugons y esto es Ninja House. Y hoy día estoy súper emocionado porque nunca he tenido el placer de poder tener un invitado premium como el que tenemos hoy día. Ahora, nuestro invitado es muy importante dentro de la cultura de Tortugas Ninjas y del mundo de los cómics, pero nuestro invitado habla inglés, así que por favor, Rafa, ¿puedes ponerme en inglés después de poner la intro? Gracias. Suéltame la free the intro.
Guess you guys aren't ready for that yet.
Here's Johnny. Rafa, ¿me puedes cambiar inglés ahora sí? Thank you. All right, so should we go? Now, let me introduce you one of the most amazing comic artists from this era, from this age. Right now, it's the amazing, the only, the magnificent Ben Bishop.
Hey.
Hey.
Thank you.
Dude.
Beautiful intro. What's up? Oh, you're over there.
Right here.
Yeah.
Fist bump.
Did we hit it?
Amazing, man. How are you doing? Thank you so much for doing this for us.
Of course. Yeah. No, this is great. I love your room back there. You've got a lot of the toys I have or had or hope to get soon. Looks amazing. Yeah. Things are great. I've been drawing all day and cranking away on comic books, getting ready for the last Ronin.
Dude, that is just amazing. You're everybody's dream, work out or live through drawing comics. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I've been drawing since I was like 4, like everybody, but I just kept doing it. And then when I was around 11 years old, I started making my own comics, my own characters, and stapling them together and handing them out to friends. And then I wrote to Marvel Comics when I was 11 years old, asking for a job, and they said, "You're not old enough. Get better and get older." But I've always known that that's all I wanted to do. And so every step along the way, I figured out, okay, what do I need to do to be able to make comics? And if that didn't work, like art college or, just getting hired on the spot at a convention, then I would find a different way to go about doing it. And everything just kind of aligned and took a lot of time, obviously took a lot of pages, but I wasn't ever going to settle for any other kind of day job. So
hold your horses, man. You wrote to Marvel when you were 8 years old and they replied?
I was 11 actually.
Oh,
yeah.
11.
Yeah. I actually have the letter over there.
For real, they replied. So maybe if I wrote, something to them, they will reply also. Or
I don't know.
It was another year.
Back in the day. So it was 1997, and I think we're getting a lot of letters, especially from kids, and oftentimes the editors would be, very supportive and try and keep them interested in comics and kind of keep them drawing essentially instead of letting them down or not replying. But then all the movies started coming out and Marvel became bigger than anything on earth. And so I don't think they take stuff in the mail anymore, but you can just find out who works there and you can write letters to everyone. Yeah.
Dude, it wasn't that easy. Everyone could do that. Mm-hmm. Nah, I think you have something, man, like an angel or almost talent you have, but you're living in the States, you have like a closer walk to knock on that door, and it is just amazing that you actually achieved that, and that's amazing. I really appreciate that you're here, man. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
So okay, the first question, man, who the hell is Ben Bishop? What's your story, man?
Well, I started, like I said, when I was 4, so I'll take it from there. When Marvel said, get better and get older, I just said, okay. And so I kept drawing, just like anyone else who's working today. I'm sure they drew their whole lives, every minute they had. And I self-published my first book, Nathan the Caveman, which is a 300-page graphic novel. I started it when I was 18, so just a couple of years after that. And the reason I went right into self-publishing is because like I said, I got all these roadblocks in the way on my journey to becoming a comic book creator as a full-time job. And one of those roadblocks was I went to art college here in Maine, and I wasn't able to continue after the first year. I just couldn't afford it. Like really, really expensive, as you can imagine. And so I was like, okay, well, what do I want to do? Like I said, I was always stubborn that, if I had to draw comics, I wanted to draw comics, so I have to draw comics. And so I decided I would just start self-publishing. And that self-published book actually has a tiny connection to the Turtles because I submitted it to the Zarek Foundation, which was run by Peter Laird, where he would take submissions he started this program to take submissions of people making their own comics, people like me or people like him and Kevin were when they were my age. And then he would give them a grant to go ahead and keep doing it. Now, I didn't get the grant. I didn't win it, but it was my first connection kind of with Peter, which is really funny. And so after that, things just kind of snowballed. Like one job led to the next. I was doing a lot of comic book conventions, so I was meeting a lot of the right people that you want to show your stuff to. And then, the past 3 years have been really big for me. The introduction of Kevin Eastman into my life and things like that. But we'll get there.
I know, but tell me a little bit about Split Decision Comics.
Yeah.
How that started?
Split Decision Comics is a company I started when I was thinking about what book I was going to do next. So I did that Nathan the Caveman book, which took 4 years, a 300-page story. It's kind of like a love story, but it's also about why people make art, why cavemen painted on walls, essentially. So what I came to find in making that book was exactly what I've been talking about. If you want to make comics, just make comics. Like I was very stubborn and said, this is what I was going to do. In that book, the reason why we make art has always been the same. And it's simply because you have to. There's nothing else you want to be doing, whether it's poetry or writing or music or drawing or painting on walls. It's the same story then that it is now. So that's what that book's about. And I was thinking about what my next creator-owned book would be, meaning like I'm going to write it, I'm going to draw it, I'm going to self-publish it. And a few years had gone by. A lot of time had actually gone by between Nathan the Caveman and when I was thinking of my next big book. And in that time, I was doing a lot of commissions, and people were starting to see the way I drew turtles, and they liked that. And I was getting a lot of work and fine work, just drawing sketch covers and spot illustrations for people just for money. But it wasn't really scratching that writer itch that I had because I was a creator-owned guy. I was a writer who wrote my own books and drew my own books. So I came up with this idea for a book called The Aggregate, and it's a post-apocalyptic sci-fi book with giant robots and spider cats, like these guys here, giant spider cats.
Dude.
But I really loved, as a kid, I had this memory of just like sitting. I moved around a lot, so I was in a different school like every year. Didn't have a ton of super close friends until I got to high school. So I would just like look at books and stuff in the library, and I was reading choose your own adventure books where you get to decide, where the story goes. And as I was thinking about this story and trying to decide, what's going to happen in this story, what's the robot do, what do the cats do, what do the main characters do, I had so many ideas, and I was like, I should just do them all. And so I needed a name for that. And I wanted to make choose your own adventure style comic books because no one was ever doing it. Choose your own adventure doesn't do it. Anyone who's done it has done it badly, in my opinion, where you like follow the panels with little colored arrows and things like that.
Go to this page, or if you want to do this, go to this page.
So I wanted to do it as non-obtrusively as possible, so it really still feels like you're reading a comic. It doesn't feel like a game or anything like that. So mine's like very simple and subtle, where you get to a page like this and you say, do I want to run or do I want to stay? And then you flip to that page and it changes the story every single time. So it's got, this book alone has 4 beginnings, 7 endings, and 20 choices in between. So you can read it like 100 different ways, is what I'm told. Not very good at math, but somebody told me they read it 100 different ways, and I believed them. And so that's where Split Decision Comics came from. It became the world's first split decision comic. And currently I'm doing book 2 of The Aggregate, which I've been working on for a long time. I actually wrote book 2 at the same time as I wrote book 1, but it was like 600 something pages, so I had to chop it in half. And then there's also a couple other titles in the works. One of them is a horror book. It's kind of like a love letter to John Carpenter's The Thing. It's a lot of fun.
I will definitely get one of those. I mean, the 2 volumes. I will definitely get, I mean, now that, we're friends, maybe you can send one to me. We will get that. But okay, let's go to the segment, Comics for Dummies. How the hell do you make a comic? Where did it start? I mean, I think from the idea, right? But then what?
Well, I'm trying to think if I should just show you over at my desk. We'll see if this works.
Yeah.
Nobody gets motion sickness or something.
No, that's fine.
right.
We can edit this. We can edit
All right,
this.
so I'm gonna try and take you on a journey over to my desk here. I think I'm going the right way. So basically, I'll get a script. Let me set you up somewhere, and I'll get a script out. Okay. So I get a script.
Okay.
For example, the book I'm doing right now with Kevin Eastman and David Avalone is called Drawing Blood. We'll talk about Drawing Blood, but I'm gonna show you the script to that real quick. All right. So basically, I get a script, and it looks like a movie script, right? I don't know if you've ever seen one. You've probably seen one, but something like this, where it says in panel 1, this person says this, and here's what happens. This person says this, and here's what happens.
Mhm.
And then what I do is I've got this this big drawing tablet here, and I do all my.
Dude, that's a tablet.
Yeah, that's
Oh
the
my
biggest
God,
one.
That's huge. That's
32.
huge.
And so that's where I draw
Okay.
all my roughs. So all my roughs, which in comic lingo would just be called the pencils. You're getting a sneak peek here at Drawing Blood. So these are all roughs. They're digital versions of the page. I like to do my roughs digitally because it allows me to make mistakes. And you can erase a lot. You can get rid of layers. You can pile on the layers. You can twist things, stretch, skew them, all that. And then after that, I put them onto, we're going to keep spinning here. I put them onto this desk, and I put a rough down like this. Here's a rough for a cover I'm doing for a friend of mine, Noah.
Nice.
His book called The Wreckage. I put the rough on there, and I turn on this light box, which allows me to, you've probably seen before, turn any sheet of paper into essentially tracing paper. And then I draw the whole thing over again. And finished pages look a little tighter. So you can see up there, those are some of the finals. And then the reason I have them on my wall is because it shows progress. It shows that I'm actually getting work done, because comics take a really, really long time. I'll be drawing for, like, on a really good day, like 16 hours. On a normal day, maybe 10. And on a bad day, anything less than that. But so there you go. Yeah, you got to have it. It's good to,
I know.
It's good to have like a visual representation of that progress, I feel like. And then the best part is when you're done the book, you can rip all that shit down, throw it away, and you really feel like satisfied. You know what I mean? So that was Comics for Dummies. It takes a real long time, but it's worth it in the end, because it's all I ever wanted to do. So I got to do it.
So that's how you make a comic. That's really, really interesting, man. Thanks a lot for giving us that, room tour. And that's
of course. Yeah, I hope nobody got too sick as I was moving around, and I hope that nobody pauses their video on that script page or anything. but hopefully the resolution's not that good.
We will blur it. We will blur it.
Okay.
So tell me a little bit more the aggregate, because you tell us how to make a comic and you receive a script. Then if it wasn't your idea, right? If you have your own idea, you wrote down your script, and then you go all ready to the paper, to start drawing. But something like the aggregate, when you have like so many turns and split decisions, how do you make that script?
I'll show you. But I'll bring the script to you.
Beautiful.
So I have it out right now, actually, because I was just looking at it. Here it is. So I told you I wrote book 1 and 2 at the same time. This is what that looks like. It's huge. So this is the aggregate. This is before it's a comic. There it is. And you can see I've got all the splits right here. See? There. All those tabs. All these different tabs. So basically I will just I thought it was going to be this thing where I had to put thread on the wall with all these little strings and like a detective or something. But really what I ended up doing was I had my outline like I would any other comic that I would write. Just, here's where the story begins. Here's some things I want to happen along the way. And here's the ending. But in this case, I had many endings, many beginnings, and many things that happen along the way. So I would just start writing the same way I would write anything, and I would get into that story and really feel like what was going to happen. And And I kind of always show it like this, like visually, but if I was writing a thread and it went up and changed a little bit and went crazy, and then it would have its own branches coming off of it. The hard part came if I ever wanted to make that thread come back in, because it's really easy to do a split and then have all of those be different endings, but it's hard to bring them back in and make sure they're wearing the same clothes and they're not repeating the same conversations, or like they didn't lose an arm or something. So that became pretty challenging. But the good thing about comics is also the bad thing about comics. I keep saying how long they take and that they take forever. It's a lot of work. But the good part for the aggregate was I'm sitting there staring at the desk for like 16 hours a day, sometimes drawing, and it's all just going through my mind. I'm thinking about the story the whole time. And I kind of had it in my brain, which has actually become pretty difficult with book 2, because so much of it is in my brain. But I need to have an actual file on the computer as well that corresponds to what's in my brain for when it comes to lettering, or when it comes to these were all Kickstarter books. So with Kickstarter, you're allowed to offer the option for real people to be in your book. They can purchase a certain amount here, and then they can be in the book, or their cat can be in the book, or they can actually write a little short story in the book. And so it's a lot to keep track of now that it's kind of like this community project a little bit.
But how do you get to choose when it's a good time in the story to split the decision, right? Like, turn left or turn right, or kill this guy or not kill this guy, kiss the girl, not kiss the girl.
Essentially, yeah. So I've got a lot that are based on offense, defense. Like you can choose to get into a fight, or you can choose to like avoid in a fight. In this story, the characters can create basically builds like an ATV or a motorcycle or a car, or like this big drill machine like what Shredder used to drive, or whatever. So a lot of times it'll be like, do I want to build a sword or do I want to build a shield? Like very much offense, defense. But there are like slap him, don't slap him, kiss her, don't kiss her, whatever. And what you get in those decisions that may not seem like a big decision when you're presented with it, what you get is more insight into those characters. So you might get a whole monologue or speech by the villain that reveals more of his intentions, more of his character, more of his backstory, more of his motives, or you might get more on your main character, and then you get her backstory and how she's really feeling inside, or something like that. And so it's almost like a bonus to make a decision that otherwise would have just been like a quick 2-panel thing, like, oh, she slapped him and then we're off. But they get into a conversation because of that. They get into an argument because of that, and you get more insight into the world. Because what I realized really early on, and especially once the book was out, was that no one's picking up the aggregate and just reading one thread and then getting to an early ending where you accidentally chop your own head off or you fall off a cliff or whatever, and then just going, okay, I'm done. Like no one's quitting. They're going back to page 1, they're doing it again, and they're choosing differently. So what I want to leave people with is like, okay, well, what happens 3 months after they read it? What's in their brain? What do they consider that story? Because there's so many different stories within it. But what you're left with is kind of this like this mashup or this scramble of all the things you read, and you take away whatever you like most about it, which I think is really cool.
That's amazing. No, that's cool. That's cool. I mean,
that's what commits to your memory.
That's so there's a way you can read it and it would last like there's a really, really short version of this, and you can do a mix of choices that will make it so very long, right? I mean, that's what I was asking about, the where and when to put the choices, because you can actually end with a 2,000 pages book.
Well, that's what happened. I sat down to write the one book, and even if you're talking about like just take comic books, for example, as like issue by issue, how much ground do you cover in one issue, right? So in the aggregate, that amount of ground with different choices could be 3 times as many pages, but you really only still got from here to here that you would have got in a normal issue 1. So the book can get big really, really fast. So you got to be careful about that. But that's what ended up essentially happening is I did reel it in and try and be careful about it, but still a 300-page book turns out to be like a 600-page book, which is fine. I love like stretching things out and having a lot of content and a lot of options, because I say that the with split decision, the big difference is big differences. So I want to make sure that it's not just silly little, oh, he, you know, jumped instead of fell down, whatever. Like, I want it to be meaningful stuff that either enhances your story by adding, you know, layers of character on top, or, you know, really changes things. And you can literally see yourself become the villain in the book and decide to end the world rather than save the world. So
that's amazing, man. So I know you've been working with Kevin Eastman with
Yep.
a comic that we're gonna talk later, but I'm gonna go because you started with drawing with him, the drawing blood, right?
Yeah. So drawing
Yeah.
blood.
Tell me a little bit how you met Kevin Eastman. How did you get to work with him? Are you were a fan, or did you just it's a job?
Well, I've always been a fan for sure. I got into, well, we'll talk about turtles, I'm sure, later, right? Or you want to do that now? But yeah, so I've known of Kevin and of Peter for a long time. What I was really envious of and inspired by with them was the self-publishing, and like the fact that they could just take an idea and have it become this monumental global success, essentially. And that, you know, not only is it like this massive money machine and franchise, and it's beautiful for all those reasons, but you see little kids like wearing t-shirts and playing with the toys and stuff, and so it's beautiful to those kids for so many other reasons. And like, how many people like me did they, you know, inspire that are coming up and now making their own books, which I think is just amazing. But I really I started talking with Kevin just because I sent him an email asking for a quote for the back of the aggregate, you know, where they would say, you should read this book because yada yada yada. And I sent a letter to him and to Peter. And Kevin's such a busy guy, he never got me a quote. He got me one recently that I'm going to use on book 2. But Pete got me a quote. It's on the back here. It says, beautiful artwork and an ambitious story. So I thought that was really sweet, especially because he didn't give me that grant earlier in my life for my first book. So I thought that was nice to get a little note from him on the back. But I ended up meeting Kevin in the flesh in Rhode Island at Rhode Island Comic Con. I was hanging out with Steve Levine, who's another turtle guy, of course. He's who Kevin based Michelangelo off of. Steve Levine lives about 20 minutes from me here in Maine. And we met up with Kevin at the convention. At the convention on a panel, Kevin was heard saying, "Oh yeah, I know Ben Bishop. He draws better turtles than me." And I was like, "What? That's not true." And so we met up later that night at a restaurant, and me and Steve and Kevin were all drawing little turtle heads for the waitresses and stuff on the receipts, and it was a ton of fun. But it wasn't until maybe 3 or so months after that I got an email from Kevin that was like, "Hey Ben, sorry I didn't get you that quote yet. I will." But he's like, "I really love your book, The Aggregate," because I had given him a copy, and he was like, "I was wondering if you wanted to do a book with me." And I was like, yeah. So I was at a convention at the time, so I literally walked outside and just talked to Kevin on the phone for like 2 hours, and he explained the whole story behind the story of Drawing Blood, which is what we like to say the fictional true story of how the Ninja Turtles were created. But instead of Kevin Eastman, it's this guy Shane Bookman, and instead of creating the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Shane Bookman and his brother created the radically rearranged Ronin ragdolls, who are samurai cats named after famous anime directors Miyazaki, Tezuka, and Otomo. So obviously I said yes. I said I'd love to draw that book. That was a few years ago. We're deep into book 2 now. We did a Kickstarter for the first book the same way I did The Aggregate, because Kevin, the same way I was inspired by Kevin's self-publishing, he told me that he was kind of inspired by my self-publishing and my way of, you know, getting my books made in this new era of self-publishing, which is Kickstarter. Because I did a Kickstarter for The Aggregate. It was my very first one, and I ended up getting, I think, 50 grand to make the book because all these people wanted to read it. And so he was like, "Can you do that with us for our book on Drawing Blood?" And we did, and we made more than that. We made like 100,000, I think. And we did the same thing for book 2. So that was awesome.
That is
to be able
amazing.
to bring that to the table as well. And anytime I can impress Eastman, I'm going for it.
Of course, who wouldn't?
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
that's great. That's great. How is it like to be, draw 3 books at the same time and leave? Have a life.
It's tough for sure, and I don't recommend it. And it wasn't my plan. I'll tell you that. The plan was, okay, Drawing Blood 1 is done. Now I can get into aggregate book 2. And so I started getting into aggregate book 2, getting that script fixed up because I wrote the script a long time ago. So really going through it and changing things, adding more splits. And then Kevin was like, okay, we got to get into Drawing Blood book 2. And I was like, oh, okay. So we got into that book, which we're still into. And then halfway through Drawing Blood volume 2, because I'm over halfway now. He was mentioning that there would be some switch ups on the creative team for The Last Ronin because of some personal issues going on with Andy and the colorist and a few other people that they just needed to kind of change things up and get some help. And so I was like, oh, I'd really love to do it. Obviously, dream job. It's the story that you and Pete concocted way back in '87 when I was 1 year old. And I was like, but you know how busy I am with my stuff. And so I like literally came out of the gate saying, I can't do it. I wish I could. Can't do it. I wish I could. And then eventually he was just like, well, what if you just do the flashback scenes? And so I'll be doing, I have a few pages in the first issue, but going from 2 to 5, he tells me I can't talk much about it, but he says it'll be about half the issues. So they're double-sized issues, so it's essentially like a whole issue, I suppose. But I get to do all the flashback stuff, so we're going to find out what happened, how we got to The Last Ronin.
Okay, we're going to go now to The Last Ronin. But first of all, let's talk about the turtles, man. How did the turtles came to your life? I mean, you just said to us that at 87 you were 1 year old, so you were born in the 86. And the turtles are from the 84, so you're just like me. We actually get born and rise and grow with the turtles. What was that for you?
Yeah, we hit it right at the right spot at 86. I love that I was born in that year because I think everything just fell perfectly for me as far as inspiration and just cartoons and toys and everything. I loved it. I missed like the Thundercats and He-Man and things like that. But then I went back to it, obviously, like, of course. But for me, it was always Turtles. It was like Turtles and X-Men. And so I really got into the toys. Like, I got into the toys and the cartoon, of course. And then the Jim Henson movies blew my friggin' mind. They still blow my mind. Best suits ever. If they could make a turtle movie again with Henson suits, it would be enormous, but people are afraid and they won't do it. So yeah, I discovered the comics way later. Like, I got into the Turtles, which is really funny because I talked about those kids with like the t-shirts and things like that, is that like I got into the Turtles, and because of the cartoon and the toys, I started making comics of my own characters and stuff, but I didn't even realize that it was a comic originally. So then when I discovered the comic later, many people have this story, but when I discovered the comic later and saw how different it was and how violent and dark and awesome, I was like, oh, cool. So, and that's what I love about the Turtles. It's like every iteration can be different. It can be darker, it can be lighter, it can be more fun, it can be more drab. And every artist puts their own spin on it.
Actually, yeah, because when we were kids, we would enjoy what this product was made for us, right? As a kid, you will love a kid product. And when you grow up and you find out that you can actually reach right now, that because it was already there, something about the Turtles that is more mature, it's like it takes you in again, right? The whole story.
Yeah, I think so. I think
really good.
It's almost like it wasn't planned, but it's great that they have Turtles for like every generation. So they started with like the older version, obviously, but those younger kids who were getting into it like we were had that older, more mature stuff to look forward to when they got of age. And so it just like kept people on Turtles for their whole lives. And that's what's happening now, of course. They just like want to keep the property going so that our generation can share it with our kids and so on and so on. and it just is this machine. And the reason
It's
it
pure
works,
nostalgic, man.
it's pure nostalgia,
Pure nostalgia.
but you still love it, like you love the new stuff, because at the core, if they do it right, it's the same, and it's because it's fun, but it's also family. And so everyone can get on board with that. You immediately know these guys are going to look out for each other. I think that's dope.
Ben Bishop, now that you're a full-grown man, I have to do this question to you, man, because the turtles were actually like a lucky shot, like a bullseye lucky shot, something like that. Because let's be honest, they're ninjas, they're turtles, they're teenagers living in New York. They only make one issue. They killed Shredder in the #1 volume. Okay, why the hell did this franchise, get to success? Why? What do you think that?
So I think the family aspect, like I said, like that's universal. People know that truth as soon as they can start speaking. They already love their family. You fall out of it sometimes, of course, but it's like something that everyone can get on board with. In addition to that, the name is freaking brilliant. It just flows. Everyone wants to say it. They don't care what it is. I feel that way, not as good as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's just like it comes right out. But like Split Decision, I knew I needed the right name. Like all these people who were trying to do similar things had like Pick a Path or Choose Your Way or something like that. And I was like, no, it's gotta be perfect. And I really do love the name I came up with, and I hope other people do as well. But I think that's really important, and I think Turtles nailed it. I think that the energy and the drive of the people making the books is just so evident, because I know what that's like. And so for me, I can see it, that they were just hustling to get it done, because they were like, I love this, and I think everyone else will love it, but they won't know they love it until it's finished. So we need to finish this. And they just like kicked total butt. That's all I really got. I think it was the perfect time. I bet you people could say, like, as far as, the cultural climate, it was the perfect time for something just fun. I don't know.
Or maybe just luck, man. Yeah, or maybe just luck.
I mean, I think there's also an element. I always say set goals, get goals. And I kind of just start saying things out loud like, oh, after this, I'm going for Spider-Man or whatever. And it takes a long time. It's not like it happens the next day, but I think that Kevin and Pete and everybody at Mirage was doing the same thing. Wouldn't it be really cool to have a movie or a cartoon or a toy line? And then they're like, okay, let's do that. And you just figure it out. So you say it out loud, you will it into existence.
We will have a toy line from the aggregate. We will have it.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah,
I'll
settle for
NECA,
a Netflix
if you're
series.
hearing me. NECA or Todd McFarlane. If you're hearing this, you have to make those toys. Okay,
yeah,
that's it. We said it. It's gonna happen.
We said it. It's out there. Set goals, get goals.
Love it. So let's go to the. Okay, you received the news. You're gonna draw the last Ronin. How that have felt? What happened? Where were you? What were you doing? Who was the first person you told?
Probably, no, I was going to say probably the Bish kids, my club there. But no, I couldn't tell them. That was really hard. It was hard not to tell anyone. I was waiting and waiting and waiting for them to finally announce that I would be part of this book. And now I'm waiting and waiting and waiting for everyone to figure out who the last Ronin is, so I can finally talk about it, because I can't. And I'm always afraid I'm going to mess up and tell you that it's Vern from, oh my gosh. No. So I don't, I don't remember the first person I told. It was probably my wife, Jill. And I was just like, hey, and it was more of like you're going to think I'm nuts because I have so much going on, but it's also like, how could you say no, right? You got to do it. I'd be an idiot career-wise to say no to doing this, and I'd be an idiot to the 11-year-old me who wanted to do this his whole life. So I have to do it. If it means the other books get a little bit behind, and then it happens. And I hope that everyone understands, and those books are not going to be rushed. I'm going to make sure that everything comes out as good as it can be, because there's no point in spending all this time if you're not gonna make it good. So
The Last Ronin is a story that Pete and Kevin wrote back in the '87. So it's been around a long time, under the bed, maybe. I don't know where the hell is this story been. But when you receive the script, you receive the full script, so you know everything about that? Or we're gonna, one of the questions that I received, for you, it was, well, we have 4 or 5 books for the Ronin, right? Is it 5 or 4?
I think it's 5.
It's 5. So we're gonna know who the last Ronin is at the beginning, at the middle, or at the end.
I don't know if I could say that.
Okay.
One of those. It's your split decision. You choose. Yeah, the whole book is a split decision. You actually choose who the last Ronin is. How's that sound? No,
don't do this to me.
Yeah.
Don't do this to me. Okay, so we
No,
have to ask, man, who the hell is the last Ronin? Tell us. Who is it? Who is the
I
last
told you.
Ronin?
It's Vern. Yeah, I mean it's not Vern. It's it's Vern. No.
Okay, we have a theory that Jenica and the turtles have a kid, and that kid is the last Ronin. Is that good?
Uh-huh. I don't mind that. So you're part of like a lot of the boards and the pages where people are talking about this. Out of everything you've seen, who have you heard the most of, do you think? Like, who do people want it to be?
I heard a lot of Leonardo and a lot of Raphael, but for me, I think Michelangelo will be the best decision because he will have to grow up. He's been always the youngest one, or the party could do it, or whatever. And this will make a huge turn for his personality.
Yeah, I've seen that commented a few times. I think that's a pretty cool angle. I'm not going to tell you anything.
Okay, but
it's Bebop and Rox. It's Bebop and Rocksteady in a trench coat.
Is it real that you receive 4 different scripts when every single script have one turtle as the last Ronin?
No, I said that, I think, to our club just as a joke. But man, that would have been the way to do it. And imagine if we actually drew all 4 of them. That'd be crazy. So I didn't get when Kevin, like I said, it was a lot of little conversations where he was talking about like the book and the change up in the team. And I was like, I really wish I could help. And then finally, he just called me up and he said like, well, what do you think? And he had talked to David, and David understood. David's the other writer on Drawing Blood. And he understood that this would just be silly for any of us to say no to, even if it put Drawing Blood a little bit back. The work won't suffer. It'll just be the timeline. And so he was telling me that, and then he sent over everything he had at that time, which was a whole lot of sketches from himself, a whole lot of work by Andy. Awesome work that I hope gets out there. And then the cherry on top was literally this document that was typed on a machine where you can see the dots in all the letters. You remember those? And it had the holes on the side of the paper that it would go through. And that was Pete's document from '87. And so I have it, a copy, of course, but it has sketches, it's got notes, it's incredible. Yeah, and I can't say much else, but Pete knew the future. I can tell you that. Pete could tell the future. Like the dad from Gremlins who's like, and it's the bathroom buddy. Like Pete has that prophet mind. He just knows like where things are headed. And these are all just like little things within the story. Like in the future, it'll be like this, this, and this, and this. And like he was right. It's crazy. And so I'm really happy to have even glimpsed those pages, especially like before most people. And it's really exciting stuff. And then as far as the scripts, they're being written kind of as they go between Kevin and Tom. So I'm getting them, as they come in.
Beautiful, man. But that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, he did tell me everything that was going to happen. Like, didn't even ask if I wanted to know. He just started, and this happens. And I was like, come on. I'm a fan too, man. Like, spoil it.
Dude, how does it feel to have this information that millions of persons wants to know, and you have to hold it back? What does that feel? Like what you could be the Tom Holland of the comic books, man. You can tell us if you want.
Oh shit!
You can tell us.
Do that. No. I think it's so brilliant I don't even know what like marketing wise, strategically, that this was even that thought of. But it's so brilliant that nobody knows who the last Ronin is, because the energy and the speculation is just so huge, and everyone's talking about it. Like every drawing I do of the last Ronin, people assume I'm giving like subtle hints in like the eyes or the bandana shape or something, and like maybe I am, maybe I'm not. I'm not gonna say I'm not, but people are just talking, and it's so brilliant if they did that on purpose to keep it secret. And I think that's so exciting, and it's gonna be strange once people know, and we've got, you know, however much left of the series. I'm not gonna tell you how much, but yeah. I like knowing there is a burden of pressure, like I'm gonna slip up. I'm drinking whiskey right now, so
Cheers, man. Cheers.
yeah, this is great. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. No, please, man. Okay, so who's the last Ronin?
There it is. The last Ronin is
It's
actually a robot. Goes by the name of K2SO. You may have seen him in this movie Rogue One. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tonight's podcast is brought to you by Rogue One. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so that's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. So let's move on a little bit, Ben. So Ben Bishop, did he collect something besides, you know, good stories and a lot of talent? Do you collect something? Are you a collector?
Oh yeah, I collect tons of stuff. I have a collector's personality, which is very scary. Like, I don't get into action figure lines unless I'm prepared to get them all at this point. The first line I ever did that with was the He-Man, the Masters of the Universe Classics line by Mattel. I think it was 2008 when the Four Horsemen started resculpting all the Masters of the Universe figures, but with like updated joints and sculpts. And it's the same thing that Super 7's doing now with the Turtles in their Ultimate line. And it's just, that's my favorite kind of toy line, because it plays on your nostalgia, but they do it like up to today's standards, and they add to it. So it's still got the weapon sprue, all those turtle figures, so you can like poke out the weapons if you want, but they know you're not going to, so they give you the real weapons too. So yeah, I collect a ton of stuff. My shelves are kind of barren right now because I just moved into this space in March, which doesn't seem like it is that recent, but with the virus and 3 books at a time, I haven't had time to set up all my toys yet. But I do a lot of Hot Toys. You guys must know Hot Toys.
Yeah, of
like
course.
The super sculpts, movie likenesses and stuff. I basically limited the Hot Toys stuff to mostly Avengers and Iron Man's, because can't get enough like robot looking suits. Outside of that, I've got Michael Keaton Batman, I've got Heath Ledger Joker, and then I've got K2SO and Jenner. So but that's pretty much it for Hot Toys. I like to, you know, put some lines in the sand when it comes to them as far as what I'm collecting. I'm not getting into the Predators and RoboCop, and definitely not getting into any of that Zack Snyder Justice League stuff. Sorry, guys. But I've been doing all the NECA Turtles if I can. A lot of Star Wars stuff recently. I feel like such a poser, but I didn't really get back into Star Wars until Force Awakens. I kind of got excited about it, that it was all like there, and I could start, instead of chasing stuff on eBay, I could start collecting with stuff.
Dude, we can have a whole different conversation and a whole different interview about Star Wars.
Yeah, we should.
We
should.
I intend to ask you some stuff about Star Wars, but I'm just like, it's gonna be so long. Like, you know, how did you like the Star Wars when Disney got it?
I liked it. I didn't have a huge, like, because I was born in '86, I didn't go see the originals in the theaters. I saw the remastered Return of the Jedi for one of my birthdays, where they added all those crappy scenes. And that's kind of when I got into Star Wars as a kid, which was on those remastered ones. So I never had like this this like precious feeling towards like, don't mess with them. Now I do, because I just think it's stupid to do so. But, and this is going to sound crazy, but there's nothing I could think of Star Wars wise that I would want less than like a generic Luke or a generic Leia or Han figure. Like, I'm excited about all the new troopers. I'm excited about all the new aliens. Excited about the new designs, you know, like I love all the Rogue One stuff. I think it's perfectly designed. I think the Solo stuff is beautiful designs. Like, I love it. So I can get into it and I can overlook a lot of stuff that people have issues with that are really, you know, diehards of the original trilogy.
You know, actually, I do love the spin-off, but not the continuity of, you know, episode, what was like 9, 10, and 11? No, what was you know, where Kylo Ren and Ren, that they repeat the same story again with more details in HD.
Yeah. So here's my feeling
like,
about the 3 new ones. I had a crap load of fun at all 3, and I had a crap load of fun buying all the toys, and and for every one of them, I loved going because I was like, it's going to be awesome. And you just get excited. It's good to get excited about something, and you go to the movies and you just don't let it wreck you if it's not what you wrote in your head. I think a lot of people had a story written in their own head, and then when it didn't turn out to be that, because movies shouldn't be predictable, I don't think. I think if you already know what's going to happen, what's the point? That being said, I'm far enough away from Last Jedi now to say that would have been a great movie if it was like the second of 10 instead of the second of 3, because he just kept throwing wrenches in the works, and then the third movie is like, well, now we got to wrap this up, which is a very hard task when you've just dumped everything out the window. I think that those choices, fine, like if they're in the middle of a huger story, but when you've only got 3 and you're trying to do something, I think there should have been a lot more communication, like what Marvel does. I think it's really great. Yeah, like they did not mess up Infinity War Endgame, and that is a huge task. Like, they went the distance, and so they could have done the same thing with Star Wars, and I think they will in the future. I don't know if it'll be a saga movie, but Mandalorian's kicking total ass, so it's just going to get better and better and better, I think. Hope.
Totally agree, man. So, okay, so are you planning to come to Peru any sooner?
I think so. Yes, I've been invited to all these shows over there, and I want to come to all of them, but I think that is like a distance of April to October, so we're going to have to pick and choose. But you should let us know which ones that I should go to in the comments, of course. And I want to go to them all. I'm super excited. I've never been out of the country other than like on a cruise where you step off the boat and suddenly you're in Jamaica and you're like, oh, okay. Or you're in Mexico and you're like, oh, okay. And then you get back on the boat. It feels more like an amusement park where they set stuff up for people who are getting off of cruise ships. And so that doesn't really count to me. I'm really excited to see what the rest of the world is like.
We will have you here. I promise that, man. My promise. So, just for ending this, and we have a blast with you, man. It's just been really great, really, really great. Well, what advice will you have to, all kids around the world that they want to do comic books?
Yeah. So I have all these stupid catchphrases that I just find myself saying, like set goals, get goals. But my real big one is just make comics. And I think that it's so true. So when college didn't work out for me, like I wrote to Marvel when I was 11, they said, you're not old enough, graduate high school and get back to us. I graduated high school, got back to them. Still, they said, go to college. So I went to college. That didn't work out, couldn't afford it. And so I said, well, if I want to make comics, I should just make comics. And so I just quit. I saved up enough money to quit my day jobs, which were like, I worked at a coffee shop and a lobster shack in Maine. We have a lot of lobster, as you may know. And so I quit all that and I just drew comics for 4 years until the book was done, because I believed that when this is done, it's going to fall into the hands of the right people. They're going to like it. Then I'll get more work and more work and more work. And that's exactly what happened. So it's just hard work. It's Just make comics. If that's what you want to do, if you say that you're a writer, but you have never written anything to show anyone, and you're like, well, I'm just waiting on, the right opportunity or something, like, then you're not a writer yet. You just got to go do it. So that's
Show your
thing.
work, right?
Yeah, you got to show your work. You got to just do it. You could say, like, it'd be really cool to have a podcast, but I don't really have any followers. Like, well, you don't get followers until you get a podcast. You know what I mean? Like, until you give them something to follow. So it's the same exact thing with comics. A lot of people will just do samples all day long, like, and send them in, or they'll send in like a 5-page pitch for their comic that they want some bigger company like Dark Horse to publish or something. And when Dark Horse says no, they just go, oh, well, I suck and I'm not going to do it. And that's not true. What's happening behind the scenes is they have 25 other books they've been waiting to say yes to, and they can only release this many a year. Like don't let some publisher tell you you're not good enough. If you think you're good enough, just keep doing it. And self-publish. There's no reason you can't. Most of what I've done so far, most of what Kevin's done in his life was self-publishing, whether it was through his own companies like Mirage or Heavy Metal and things like that. It's all the same. You can legitimize yourself by making really good work.
That's completely true, man. Completely true. That's the way I knew you. I found you. That's the way I actually went into the Bishop Club, and now here we are. That's amazing because real, this guy is one of the most humble and honest and talented person that I've ever met. And just for answering me the chat, or giving us this opportunity to chat with him, it actually shows us how this guy is, and we really appreciate that here in Ninja House. All of the fans in Latin America are really hoping and waiting, for this book to come out, see the light, and find out who the hell the Ronin is. So my last question will be, who's the last Ronin? Come on, guys. Who's the last Ronin? Come on.
You are.
No? You are. You are. Yes. So, man, just say whatever you want and say goodbye to everybody in America, in Peru, and people from Ninja House.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, Ninja House. Everybody in Peru, Latin America, and even here in America. It's been really fun. My wife is going to love this video. She's learning different languages, and she's going to dissect every word you say. In addition to that, I guess the only other thing I said is, or I will say is the thing that brought us together that we've mentioned a couple times. I might as well plug is the Bishart Kids Club. What you have here is an empty box, but inside that box, every quarter, if you sign up for the Bishart Kids Club, you can get some cool stuff. Every 3 payments, we made this Drawing Blood issue 1 reprint, and it's actually got a yellow sketch cover, yellow line. But on the inside, I can't find my camera, is every rough and every final right next to each other. So you can see how the process went. So it's a really cool place where we get to just make exclusives. This is the book I did with Kevin, Target R, which was the Raphael Macro series, but as you can see, it's enormous. And this was a Bishart Kids Club exclusive, and it's just all the raw pages. And then in the back, it's all numbered, you see here, and it even says right in it that it's an exclusive. So every box, everything that comes in it is all exclusive to the club. So it's been a lot of fun cooking up new ideas. We've done beer koozies like this to keep your drinks cold. We've done shirts, we've done hats, we've done everything. So it's a lot of fun. There's over 100 members now.
I'm on my second month, man. I'm on my second month. I'm only missing 1 month, one more month, man.
Yeah, man. I'm so glad that you joined, and I'm glad that we met, connected, and get to do this, and then I get to come out to all the awesome shows you have over there.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks all fans in Latin America. Thanks everybody in Ninja House. I'm going to switch to Spanish now. Muy bien, quiero agradecerle al gran Ben Bishop que ha estado con nosotros dándonos exclusiva. We're so dumb.
Yeah.
Y nada, de verdad, agradecerles a todos por su tiempo y nada, esto es Ninja House, yo soy Tortugons, él es Ben Bishop y ahí nos vidrios.
See you later. Thank you.